Love didn't choose you, manipulation did. And she can't even see it. Ask yourself this: why do women chase men who don't fit their standards? Why do some sparks appear out of thin air, burning hotter than logic can explain? What if every romance you've ever seen was nothing more than her ancient wiring being hijacked? Here's the dread you never wanted to face. Her emotions aren't always authentic. They're engineered, not consciously. Not by fate, but by forces buried so deep inside her subconscious that even she believes the lie. She swears she's free, but she's already programmed. And that's what makes this both dangerous and powerful. Because once you understand these switches, you stop begging for attention. You stop waiting for luck. Instead, you gain access to the 12 psychological triggers that can make her feel addicted to your presence without her ever realizing why. If you think attraction is about compatibility, you're already lost. It's not about who you are. It's about what her brain can't resist. By the end of this video, you won't just look at women differently. You'll see attraction itself for what it really is. A machine running on ancient code, vulnerable to anyone who knows how to rewrite it. And once you've seen behind the curtain, you'll never unsee it. The first hidden trigger is brutal in its simplicity. Most men think attraction is about giving more flowers, more compliments, more effort. But here's the paradox. The more you try to prove yourself, the less she values you. Not because she's ungrateful, but because her brain is wired to value her own actions over yours. Here's the trap. When you ask a woman for a small favor, tiny, harmless, almost forgettable, her brain collides with a contradiction. Why would I help him if I didn't care? That tension is unbearable. So her mind rewrites reality. It whispers, I must like him more than I realized. This isn't romance. This is mental jujitsu. You're using her own psychology against her. Each small favor, carrying something, sending a text, bringing you coffee, becomes another thread of investment. And the more she invests, the more her brain inflates your value, desperate to stay consistent with itself. She believes she's helping you because she likes you. But the truth, she likes you because she's helping you. The causation runs backward. Her own actions trap her in feelings she never consciously chose. And here's the dread. She never notices. It feels authentic. It feels natural. But authenticity is an illusion. She's not falling for you. She's falling for the story her brain is forced to tell itself. This is why the most dangerous men never beg for attention. They don't prove their worth. They don't compete. They flip the script and let her prove something to herself. And once she starts doing it, her subconscious tightens the knot. The paradox is cruel. The more she gives, the more she convinces herself you're worth keeping. And the moment she realizes how much she's invested, it's already too late. Her body betrays her before her mind even knows what's happening. Most men think chemistry comes from shared values or deep conversations. But the truth? It often comes from adrenaline her brain mistakes for attraction. Here's how it plays out. Her heart races, her breathing quickens, adrenaline floods her veins. Her body screams, something is happening. But the brain? It has no idea why. It just looks for the closest explanation. And if you're standing there, she assigns all that energy to you. That's the sleight of hand. The fear from a horror movie becomes the thrill of being with you. The rush from a roller coaster turns into butterflies in her stomach. The tension of an adventure rewires itself as excitement about your presence. Her nervous system doesn't care where it came from. To her, it feels real. And here's the cruelty. Those feelings linger. Long after the credits roll. Long after the ride ends. She doesn't remember the external cause. She remembers you. Her brain encodes the electricity, the intensity, the rush, directly into the story of being with you. Not because you're the one, but because biology just tricked her into believing it. That's why the average man takes her to a safe dinner, and she leaves unshaken. But the man who controls the context, the one who chooses intensity over comfort, leaves her exhilarated, craving more. She doesn't think, that was fun. She thinks, I feel something with him. And here's the dread loop. If her brain can't tell the difference between fear and love, then what does love even mean? The answer is dark. It means if you control the context, you control her reality. And if you can control her reality, you control the story her heart will tell. Familiarity is the slowest but most lethal drug. Most men believe she falls for excitement, fireworks, unforgettable first impressions. But the truth, it's not the spark that captures her. It's the repetition she never notices. The brain is lazy. It hates to calculate from zero every time, so it cheats. When her subconscious sees the same face over and over, it marks it as safe, trustworthy, even desirable. That's why a song you once hated on the radio eventually becomes your favorite. The same glitch works with people. Show up in her orbit often enough, and her mind quietly upgrades you. From stranger to familiar, to someone who just feels like part of her world. No fireworks needed, just presence, just consistency. Picture it. Same coffee shop, same gym, same circle of friends. At first, your background noise, harmless, forgettable. But repetition does its work. Slowly, her guard drops. Familiarity turns into comfort, and comfort, in the strange math of her brain, turns into attraction. Not because you swept her off her feet, but because her subconscious decided you belong. The beauty and the cruelty of this effect is that she never sees it happening. One day she wakes up, realizing you don't feel like a stranger anymore. You feel familiar, and familiar feels good. But here's the razor's edge. Too much presence, and you look desperate. Too little, and you vanish. Masters of this game find the balance. They slip into her environment often enough to matter, but never enough to trigger suspicion. They become part of the wallpaper of her life. And human wallpaper always becomes loved, because her brain confuses comfort with desire. And here's the dread. If her heart can mistake routine for romance, then how much of what she calls love is nothing but exposure wearing a mask? The answer is darker than she'd ever admit, because once her brain decides you're safe, it won't stop until it convinces her you're special. Nothing accelerates attraction faster than the rumor it already exists. Most men think keeping her guessing is the way to spark desire. But the truth? It's not mystery that ignites her. It's certainty that unlocks her. Here's why. Uncertainty is expensive. When she doesn't know how you feel, her brain burns energy replaying conversations, dissecting texts, scanning for hidden meaning. It's exhausting. But the instant she learns you're interested, her mind relaxes. The doubt evaporates. That freed up energy flips inward. Suddenly, she's no longer asking, "Does he like me?" She's asking, "How do I feel about him?" And the very act of asking rewires her perception. She starts scanning for evidence. Your smile, your timing, your presence. Every detail she once overlooked suddenly glows brighter, charged with new significance. She doesn't just notice more. She feels more. This creates a self-feeding loop. Knowing you like her gives her permission to like you back. Each reason she finds reinforces the loop, making her feelings stronger, faster, harder to deny. What started as curiosity now feels like inevitability. But here's the trick. Say it directly, and it feels staged, calculated. But let her overhear it. Let it slip through a friend. Let her discover it without you trying. Authenticity, real or not, makes it irresistible. Because the real power of reciprocal liking isn't about stroking her ego. It's about eliminating the single biggest barrier to attraction, the fear of rejection. Once that fear dies, she lets herself explore feelings she might have buried. She believes she's opening her heart. In reality, she's following a script her brain was waiting for permission to run. And here's the dread. If all it takes is the discovery of your interest to ignite hers, then how much of what she calls chemistry is just feedback from a loop she never controlled? The answer is uncomfortable. But it's also why love stories don't start with fate. They start with the right spark of certainty, and the brain does the rest. The fastest way to feel connected isn't truth, it's imitation. Most men think attraction grows when you reveal more of yourself. But the reality? It grows fastest when you reflect more of her. This is the chameleon effect. The female brain is wired for survival. For millions of years, safety meant sticking close to the tribe. Those who moved like you, spoke like you, felt like you. Anyone too different triggered suspicion. Anyone who mirrored you felt like family. That's why this works. She crosses her legs. You shift subtly in the same rhythm. She leans in. You lean in just enough. Her tone rises with excitement. Yours echoes it back. To her conscious mind, nothing stands out. But her subconscious is recording every beat, whispering, "We're the same. We belong." This doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like connection. It bypasses logic entirely and strikes the primitive core. When someone mirrors us, our brain categorizes them as safe, familiar, even part of me. And belonging is the most irresistible drug of all. But here's the key. Subtlety. Copy too much, and it looks like mockery. Masters don't imitate. They harmonize. They pick the right notes, posture, pace, energy. They don't become her shadow. They become her rhythm. And that rhythm creates a false intimacy so powerful, she can't distinguish it from the real thing. She doesn't stop to analyze. She just feels understood, aligned, seen. To her, it's not a tactic, it's chemistry. Not because you're her perfect match, but because her brain is tricked into believing you already are. And here's the dread loop. If she can mistake imitation for intimacy, then how many soulmates are nothing more than mirrors? That's the terrifying part. Her heart won't know the difference, and in the end, what feels real becomes real, simply because her brain refuses to question it. Scarcity doesn't just raise value in markets, it rewires desire in her brain. Most men believe being available, always ready, always present, proves devotion. But the paradox? The more available you are, the less she values you. Her brain is ancient. It equates rarity with worth. That's why people fight for limited editions. That's why empty tables are ignored. But a crowded bar makes the same place feel alive. And that's why the man who seems just out of reach feels more magnetic than the one who's always waiting. Scarcity triggers survival fear. Don't miss out. Don't lose this chance. Her instincts scream louder than her logic. She doesn't think, he's busy. She feels, he must be valuable. But here's the cruel edge. Fake scarcity backfires. If you ghost her or pretend to be busy, she senses it. Women detect inauthenticity faster than men expect. Real scarcity isn't a trick. It's the byproduct of a full life. Your ambitions, your options, your priorities. You're not unavailable because of her. You're unavailable because of you. That's what makes it powerful. And the irony? Genuine interest can sometimes make you look weaker, but selective distance makes you look like a prize. Your attention feels like something she must earn. And what the brain fears losing, the heart learns to crave. Not because you played games, but because her biology confuses limited access with ultimate value. Here's the dread loop. If her love deepens when she fears losing you, then how much of what she calls passion is really just panic in disguise? That's the dark truth. Scarcity doesn't just shape markets, it shapes hearts. And in her eyes, the man who's not always there becomes the man she can't afford to let go. Addiction doesn't come from constant reward. It comes from unpredictability. Most men think she wants steady affection, predictable comfort, reliable attention. But the truth? Consistency soothes her. Uncertainty enslaves her. Casinos cracked this code long ago. A slot machine that pays every spin? Boring. A slot machine that pays sometimes, unpredictably, irresistible. The brain locks in, waiting, hoping, chasing. And that same wiring is active in relationships. When sometimes you text back instantly, but other times hours later. When some nights you're fully present, but other nights you pull away without reason. Her brain doesn't relax. It stays lit, scanning for patterns, obsessing over how to win your attention again. Every time your affection lands after a stretch of silence, it feels amplified, like hitting a jackpot. The chemical high is stronger precisely because it wasn't guaranteed. And now, she's not just enjoying your attention, she's addicted to it. She won't say, "He's unpredictable." She'll say, "I can't stop thinking about him." That mental preoccupation becomes obsession, and obsession, in her mind, feels like love. But here's the line only masters understand. Too much distance, and she walks. Too much attention, and she grows numb. The secret lies in tension. Just enough warmth to keep her engaged, just enough cold to keep her chasing. Not because you're magical, but because her biology mistakes chaos for passion. And here's the dread. If unpredictability feels like desire, then how much of what we call romance is nothing more than her brain trapped in a gambling loop? That's the nightmare most men never see. But once you understand it, you realize you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be unpredictable. The easiest way to trap someone isn't through grand gestures. It's through tiny steps. Most men think relationships move forward with bold declarations, big leaps, dramatic moments. But the truth? It's not the big yes that binds her. It's the quiet chain of small yeses she never questions. Here's how it works. You ask her for something small, an opinion, a quick text, a harmless favor. She agrees, and her brain, desperate for consistency, starts building a narrative. If I'm saying yes, it must be because I care. The next request feels easier. Then another. Then another. Coffee turns into dinner. Dinner turns into a weekend. A casual night turns into exclusivity. From the outside, it looks like natural progression. But inside her subconscious, a deeper mechanism is running. Each commitment forces her brain to inflate your value, because admitting she invested in someone unworthy would fracture her self-image. And the brain will do anything to avoid that pain. That's why this trap is so devastating. She believes every choice is hers. She swears she's following her heart. But in reality, she's following the script her brain is writing to justify her own actions. The more she gives, time, energy, intimacy, the harder it becomes to pull away. Every step locks her deeper into the story. He must be worth it. Otherwise, why would I have done all this? And here's the dread. If love can be built out of nothing but small obligations stacking on top of each other, then how much of what she calls free will is really just psychology chaining her in place? That's the terrifying beauty of the foot in the door effect. By the time she realizes how much she's given, the trap has already closed. One strong impression can blind her to every flaw you have. Most men think women weigh each trait carefully: your humor, your values, your ambition. But the reality? Her brain doesn't analyze, it shortcuts. And that shortcut is called the halo effect. Here's what happens. The moment she notices one powerful trait, your confidence, your wit, your presence, her mind gets lazy. Instead of evaluating everything else, it copies and pastes that first impression across the board. If you seem strong in one area, she assumes you're strong in others. If you look trustworthy once, she assumes you're trustworthy always. That's not logic. That's cognitive efficiency. And it's wildly inaccurate. This is why first impressions are deadly. When you lead with strength, her perception filters everything through that lens. Your flaws shrink, your strengths expand, and instead of seeing you for who you are, she sees you through the glow of her own projection. The halo effect isn't reserved for pretty boys or movie stars. Any perceived value can trigger it. Maybe you handle stress calmly. Maybe you shine in one moment of competence. Maybe you deliver a joke that lands perfectly. That single spark is enough for her brain to build a story that paints you larger than life. And once the halo locks in, it's nearly impossible to break. She'll explain away your mistakes. She'll excuse your weaknesses. She'll fight to defend the image she's already committed to. Not because you're flawless, but because her brain refuses to admit it judged wrong. Here's the dread loop. If love can grow out of nothing more than one glowing impression magnified by bias, then how much of what she calls true connection is really just her mind refusing to see the full picture? The truth is harsh. She's not in love with you. She's in love with the lens her brain built around you. And once that lens shines, it blinds. Desire isn't born in isolation. It's multiplied in public. Most men think she judges you only by what she sees. But the truth, her brain is constantly outsourcing its judgment to everyone else. This is the law of social proof. If other women want you, her instincts tell her you must be worth wanting. If a room gravitates toward you, her subconscious whispers, he has value. It's not logic, it's survival coding. For millennia, choosing the man others desired increased her odds of choosing well. That's why two identical men, one surrounded by attention, one ignored, are judged worlds apart. The man in demand suddenly looks magnetic. The man unnoticed? Invisible. Nothing changed in him. Everything changed in her perception. And here's the ruthless twist. Social proof doesn't just reflect desire, it creates it. The moment she sees competition, her instincts flare. Attraction becomes rivalry. What was once curiosity turns into a bidding war her brain doesn't want to lose. Scarcity blends with validation, and her emotions spiral into obsession. You don't have to fake it. Social proof builds naturally. Female friends who vouch for you, crowds that respond to you, even the simple aura of being sought after. These cues shout louder than any self-promotion. You don't tell her you're valuable. The world does it for you. And here's the dread loop. If her attraction intensifies only when others validate you, then is she falling for you? Or for the reflection of how others see you? That's the dark reality. In the marketplace of desire, value is rarely intrinsic. It's comparative. And the moment she thinks others want you, her brain rewrites the story. I want him too. She won't remember the whole night. She'll only remember 2 moments. Most men think attraction is built on steady comfort, on being good enough all the way through. But the truth, Her brain doesn't record the full movie. It saves only the highlight reel. This is the peak end rule. When she looks back on time with you, her memory doesn't replay every second. Instead, it clings to two anchors: the most intense moment and how it all ended. Everything else fades into static. That means one electric spark, a laugh that shook her, a glance that froze her, a thrill that raised her pulse, can outweigh hours of mediocrity. And if you cap that night with a strong ending, her brain rewrites the entire experience as magical. A forgettable dinner becomes a memory she craves, a dull date with no climax, and a flat goodbye. Erased. This is why masters engineer peaks. They design moments of intensity. Then they control the ending. Walk away when the energy is still high. Cut the night short before it drifts into boredom. Leave her smiling, tingling, wanting more. Because the last impression is the lasting impression. Not because the whole experience was perfect, but because her brain edits the story into perfection. And here's the dread loop. If memory itself can be hacked, if her feelings are built on highlights and endings rather than truth, then how much of love is nothing but a biased reconstruction? The answer is uncomfortable. She won't fall for reality. She'll fall for the story her mind replays. And you don't need to control every moment, only the peaks and the end. One trick can sway her, but 12 together can reprogram her entire reality. Most men believe love is fate, chemistry, or destiny. The truth? It's none of those. It's her brain collapsing under a storm you created. This is advanced arousal manipulation, the final weapon. Scarcity makes her chase. Intermittent reinforcement keeps her addicted. Social proof amplifies your value. Peaks and endings rewrite her memory. Layer them on top of adrenaline or thrill, and her nervous system cannot resist. Her conscious mind tries to explain it. But while she analyzes one detail, 5 other triggers fire below the surface. The flood of chemicals, racing pulse, sharpened focus, euphoric highs, leaves her with one conclusion: you. Not because you're her soulmate, but because biology was hijacked. And here's the cruel twist. Once she acts on those feelings, the loop reinforces itself. Investment breeds justification. Justification strengthens belief. The fake becomes real. And even the puppet master risks being tangled in his own strings. That's why this knowledge is both seductive and terrifying. You're not just creating attraction, you're rewriting her emotional reality. And if you're not careful, the line between authentic love and manufactured desire disappears forever. So ask yourself, if even love can be engineered, then what emotions are ever truly real? Most men will never dare to face that question. Now it's your turn. Will you stay blind to the strings or finally take control? If this opened your eyes, don't stop here. Subscribe for more truths about the hidden psychology of love. Hit the bell so you never miss what's next. And share this with someone who needs to see the strings before they get pulled.